Think about Batman, guys. What makes him so special? He is so committed for his personal development. He tries to increase his strengths and also reduce his weaknesses, trains a lot, and makes sure that he is self-sufficient on his own. He doesn't need any partners, he doesn't need a team to operate. He can do anything on his own and do it very well as well. Now, that was the approach we took in the previous video, where we wanted to make ourselves strong enough, we want to set ourselves in a path, and we want to continue with a very good consistency and self-discipline. But now, children, once you reach out that stage, once you make sure that you are in the proper path and now you are gaining a little bit of improvement, the next step of your progress should be to try to incorporate some like-minded people. Now, even though Batman likes to work alone, we do see him as a very valuable member of Justice League. If you are a Marvel fan, you can think about Iron Man and Avengers. But what I'm trying to say is, once you reach a certain level of your improvement, you have to try to incorporate some valuable partnerships into your progress, and that will elevate you to another level of success. Let me tell you how to do this in your study sessions and how to get your friends to get into your progress track as well in this episode of The Master Show. So let's talk about working as a team. Now, I want to highlight many points in this video. And first of all, we will make an analogy out of a very simple project such as painting your house. Imagine that you're going to paint your house and you have two options to choose from. Either you have to do it solo, which means you're going to paint your house alone, or you can gather a few of your friends and try to paint the house with them. Now, let's try to compare what are the advantages we get when we work as a team over when you work alone. So the first and the most obvious advantage is the workload will be split. I don't think I have to explain it here. Nobody likes to paint a whole house alone. They would rather get few friends and try to split the work, because that will make the work more efficient and you can get the work done on time as well. So that is the first and the key major advantage in working as a team. Factor number 2 is that it will be more interesting to work with a group. It will be more engaging. The interactions you have, the memories you make, everything will make the overall activity a pleasant one. So that is something you can't get when you do work all alone. And the third one, and sometimes the most underrated aspect of a team work, is that you will learn a lot from the other team members. Say you are painting alone, you have to do everything by yourself. But when you're working with a team, there will be a person who will be good at mixing paints. There will be a person who will be good at cleaning the house. There will be a person who is good with the shifting and the planning and the managing. So each of these members can actually contribute their expertise, and not only that, you can also learn from the others what you do not know. You can teach them something which you know, and you can learn from them something which you do not know. This will also make teamwork a much more productive and very engaging affair to attend to. Now, if you have worked as a team, you would disagree that it is more useful than working alone. I myself consider me to be not a very good team player, even though I have worked with many teams in the past, and almost all the projects I have managed with the team has become a success. There are some disadvantages when you work as a team. In my case, the advantage when I work in a team is I find myself at least 10 times as productive as when I work alone, mainly because I want to make sure that my part of the work is done on time. So that kind of keeps me motivated to do the work. But whereas on the flip side, when I perform and I want my teammates to perform in the same level, I want to do the same amount of work, I want them to keep up with the deadlines, that sometimes makes me as a little bit of a more controlling, uptight, bossy kind of a player in the team. So that is something what I hate about myself when I work as a team. I try to control it, but people who work as teams would have found more and more disadvantages when you are working as a team. One of the facts is that everybody in the team will not be contributing the same amount of work. the workload will not be divided. There will be one or two people who will be bearing most of the workload, and some of them will not be contributing much to the team. Secondly, people are not always willing to teach or learn from the team members. So that is another disadvantage sometimes you can face when you are working as a team. And the final factor is not all teams work well. For a team to work well, there should be a good dynamics among the members. You should move well with them. You should be working with people who you really like to interact with, who you really have, in the modern day terms, we can say who you really vibe with. So then and only then, the team effort and the teamwork will be a very pleasant and wonderful experience to go through. So if you look at these disadvantages, you will find if you can nail one thing properly, your teamwork will be a very wonderful experience. And that one thing is your team. You have to select the right members. In your team, what you should have is the right members. The right members can make this whole process so much easy and so much effective. So when you're creating the team, you have to make sure you find people who are in the same vision as you are, people who share the same dream, and people who will support you, and people who will contribute to the team overall. So finding the right people will be definitely a very important key point when you're following any advices which I am going to tell in this particular video. That's a bit of a long prologue about the episode. Now let me tell you how you can incorporate what I have explained right now into your study sessions, and how you can make this more effective. So in order to make use of this, I will tell you an example from my O-level times. So we had this game in our O-level times, and we wanted, actually this was started by the students who usually come in the top 3, top 5, and we are very grateful for that because they were very thoughtful and they made this happen, and this was very useful for us. So what we did is we split into groups of 3 partners. So in my group, 2 of my friends were there, and these are my O-level friends. You don't know them, and one of them was obviously my best friend. He was really good at his marks. He was actually the best one out of the 3. His expertise was there in almost every subject, but specifically he was good at history, science, and Sinhala, and so on. Whereas I was good at IT, maths, and English, and I was bad at some subjects like history. And our third friend, who was the below average student in our group, he was below average mainly because he changed his medium. He was a fully English medium student, and when he came to our school, he had to go for semi-English medium. So therefore, he had trouble with Sinhala. So he was a below average student. So throughout the term, what we would do is, I will be concentrating on the subjects which I am good at, which is maths, IT, and English, and so on. And my friend will be focusing on the subjects which he is good at, and we will help each other to develop the subjects which we are not good at. That means he will be trying to help me with history, I will be trying to help him with IT likewise, and both of us together will help that below average friend of ours to perform better in the exams. So what happens is, once the exam is done, once the term test is done, we take the 3 averages of the 3 members and we divide it by 3 to check what is our group average. So whichever the group scores the highest average becomes the champions of that particular term. We did not have any gifts or anything, but the pride of having the championship tag on you was something worth fighting for. So now why I explained you this example is, and by the way, fun fact, this game is what inspired us to start O-level plus trifactor as well. So when we were discussing about ideas, this idea was inspired by this particular game we played during O-levels. Of course, in a much more larger scale, we did it as O-level plus trifactor. So what I want you all to understand from this is, children, when you work as a group and if you find the right friends to work along with you, definitely they can contribute to a very good development in your overall studies, and you can contribute a very good amount to their studies as well. But there are some precautions you have to take. For this to work, you have to make sure, do not overload your team. Keep the number of friends very minimum. Secondly, make sure they are in the same mindset as you. They may be a very good friend of you. It may be very fun to hang out with them, but if they are not going to contribute to your growth, and if you are not going to contribute to their growth, then they do not belong in your table. So you have to select the friends who will be really contributing something towards your development as well as their development. And finally, the third important key factor you have to remember is you have to make sure friends can be distracting sometimes. You might start a session of group studies, and after a few minutes there might be some distractions, and the study session might turn out into a complete waste of time as well. So you have to make sure you have set some boundaries, set some rules, and make sure that you are strict about that particular time. You can have fun when you have fun, but when it comes to studying, you have to make sure that the time of everyone is not wasted and used in the optimum way. So the summary of this episode is, children, once you have embarked on the journey to improve yourself, and once you're on a certain level, incorporating the right friends into this plan would actually elevate your success a little bit more. But remember, again and again, it's very important that you choose the right people to do this with. Do not overload yourself. Select a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5 friends who will actually come along with this journey with you. And the final thing I have to tell about these children, some of us do not work well in a team. So if you are that person, or if you do not have the right people around you to do this, then the best thing you can do is to travel this journey alone. So that is also something you have to keep in mind. With this said and done, children, I'm going to end this episode, the 5th episode of the Master Show, and let me meet you in the final episode and the 6th episode of this series next week. Till then, signing off with love, Rizlan Hassan.